Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our EPI Free Education webinar series. My name is Joe Clower. I'm part of the member experience team here at the Exit Planning Institute. Today's call is on From CPA to CEPA, Making a Successful Transition, being presented by Rich Gunn. So Rich has been assisting business owners from startup planning through succession planning for over 25 years, with a focus on exit planning. He is a CEPA and a CPA with a background in tax advisory services, and he has a passion for working with owner-managed businesses. Rich is a leader of BPM's exit planning practice, and he's a co-author of a series of articles known as the BOSS, Business Owner Special Series, which provides education and practical advice to business owners about successful exit planning.
Thank you, Joe, and thanks to the Exit Planning Institute for hosting the webinar today, and thanks for everyone attending. My name is Rich Gunn. I am a CEPA and a CPA, and today's webinar is geared towards CPAs who are in public accounting. I believe that CPAs are in the best position to be the single best exit planning advisors for our clients, but the transition is not always easy. There are hurdles that if you can anticipate them, you can get over them more easily, and there's advantages that we have that we can leverage. So today's presentation is not to teach anybody about exit planning. That's what the Exit Planning Institute does. But if you're beginning your exit planning practice or about to, anticipating some of the hurdles and how you can leverage some of the advantages that we have is really what this is all about today. So very quickly, a little bit about myself. My background is in tax. I spent 6 years in one of the largest firms in the world before transitioning to 6 years later to one of the smallest firms in the world. I went from a Big 8 firm to a firm that had 20 people in it, BPM, and I'm still there today. I became a partner in the year 2000. And so between 1992 and today, we've gone from 20 people in San Francisco to over 500 people throughout the West Coast, and with our remote employees, throughout the country as well, and some overseas. I took the CEPA training class in November of 2017. So 2018 was really my first year engaging in practice, which I did pretty much myself before adding a staff person to help me out in 2019. So the first few slides I'm going to go over fairly quickly because they really talk about the opportunity that we have here. And if you want to look about it at the 10,000 foot level, it's all about those baby boomers who are retiring now and will continue to retire for the next 10 years, and the trillions of dollars of wealth that's trapped in those businesses that an astute advisor can capitalize on if they want to be the advisor to their businesses. So that's the 50,000 foot level. I prefer to take things a little bit closer to earth or closer to home. And I just think of, looking at the clients that I have in my portfolio, looking at the clients we have in our firm, and maybe looking around my community. And I see all the business owners that I know, and I know they're all going to retire and they're all going to exit their business. And anyone who's been through any EPI training whatsoever, you're well aware that business owners will benefit from exit planning. And there's lots of statistics that we get from EPI, from the surveys that they do, but the one that stands out most to me is this one, that 75% of business owners who sell their business 12 months later regret the results. Why do they regret the results? There's lots of reasons. Sometimes it's because they didn't understand all the options they had. Maybe they made poor decisions. Perhaps they couldn't sell it for the price they wanted to, or they sold it for the price they wanted, but they found out too late that those proceeds were insufficient to support their lifestyle. Or maybe after golfing every day for 6 months, they're a little bit bored, they're unmotivated, they're uninspired. We can go on and name another 10 reasons why people might regret how that transpired, but I think it really comes down to two main categories, and here's what they are. From a business owner's eyes, had I only known, and had I only been advised, any reason for regret probably falls into one of these two categories. So that's a statistical, approach to why exit planning is really necessary and helpful to business owners. But anecdotally, I have a friend named Randy who's a business broker, and we've working together on many transactions in the past. And Randy said to me something that surprised me since we had worked together so often. He tried to explain to me what is the most difficult part of his business as a business broker. And this is what he said. Everyone wants to help business owners when they're ready to sell their business, when they smell a transaction is in the near future. But no one wants to do the hard work. No one wants to do the long-term planning. No one wants to help get the business ready for sale. So from Randy's perspective of trying to sell businesses, he says, I can't sell it, or I can't sell it for what it should be worth because no one got in there early and did the hard work. So when you think about that, really what is the optimal exit plan? It's getting in there early, implementing long-term strategies for enhancing value to make sure that the owner has sufficient work to satisfy all their goals. So with that understanding, I had to ask myself, knowing that at my own client base, if 3 out of 4 of my clients are not going to have a satisfactory exit without intervention, who's going to do the exit planning for them? Is it going to be me, or is it going to be someone else, or is it going to be no one? And so the reason why I'm here today is some information that I have that gives me some inspiration, but also some concern. Every week I see the increasing number of new CEPAs that come out of the program, and the numbers are growing. And to me, as a member of EPI, that's really exciting and inspiring. But when I look at how many of them who are CPAs, the percentage of CPAs that are going through the exit planning program are actually shrinking. And I find that to be a little bit disappointing. And so I thought maybe CPAs don't really understand the barriers, and maybe they start and then maybe they pull back and they don't follow through. I asked myself, what are the barriers that really prevent people from engaging in exit planning full-time and making it part of their practice? The most common barrier that I see is really confusion. I talk to a lot of CPAs as well as attorneys and partners in my own firm who don't think we need to build an exit planning practice because we already have one, because we're doing transaction planning. And it seems like in the advisory world, there's a confusion between transaction planning and exit planning. And transaction planning is not exit planning. It's extremely valuable and it's extremely important, but it's distinct and separate. I always think of exit planners like the quarterback on the team, and they bring the football down the field, play after play, throughout the entire game, and they get the ball into scoring position. And special teams come out to kick the three-pointer, kick the extra point, push the ball over the last few yards over to the goal line. So transaction planning is extremely important, but it's one component of exit planning, and it's not exit planning completely. So, when you're talking to your partners about building an exit planning practice, don't be surprised when they say, we already do that, when in fact they don't. You might need to educate your partners on the difference, and the value of having exit planning as a supplement to transaction planning. The second barrier that I frequently see or hear about from other CPAs who are doing this is the busy season barrier. My background is in tax, so I talk about the tax season a bit, but most practices in public accounting have their ups and their downs, their peaks and their valleys. But if you want to engage in exit planning, you really need to, and build a new practice, this really needs to be a year-round effort. You have to really go at it relentlessly. Clients don't want somebody who's dabbling in exit planning where maybe we get started in October and we're working on it October and November and December and January and things are going great, and then the client's trying to schedule a meeting for February and we say, well, February, March, April, we're kind of busy with our busy season, our taxes or our audits or whatnot, so let's schedule the next meeting for May. And with that 3 or 4 month lag, your client is going to be very disappointed. You're going to lose the momentum, and you're going to lose the experience that just compounds on itself. So, this isn't something that we should be dabbling or using into just fill time, but really going and engaging full time. Another barrier is just the fact that CPAs are being expected to be domain experts. It's very difficult to be a general practitioner anymore. In fact, it's difficult just to be a tax practitioner anymore. Many of us are specializing in corporate tax or partnership tax or estate and trust tax, or a partnership expert who, again, specializes further in real estate. And once we have a reputation as being a domain expert in a certain area, it can be daunting or difficult to imagine starting over with a brand new domain expertise. So you have to really ask yourself if you're going to be committed to stepping out of your current area of expertise and starting something new. The investment barrier is something that has to be made at the firm level. Does the firm that you're with really want to invest in launching a brand new practice? And the reason why it has to be made at the firm level is because if you're going to start an exit planning practice or any new practice, you're going to be taking away time from your existing practice. You're going to take some of those billable hours and turn them into non-billable hours as you're building and developing and marketing something new. And so not only will your billable hours, decrease as you're building the new area from scratch, but you're going to be incurring expenses. You're going to take certification programs, perhaps training. You're going to get new resources that are not currently available in your library because you've never needed them before. There'll be specialized software. There might be marketing initiatives. So the firm has to make a decision that they really want to invest in this new practice. And then once the firm makes that decision, the most common issue or problem or barrier that I hear CPAs becoming CEPAs talk about is the lack of assistance they get from their partners. There's an expectation that if we all agree that I'm going to launch this exit planning practice, that all of my partners are going to jump in and introduce me to their clients, and if I'm doing seminars, invite their clients to my seminars. And I hear from many that this just really doesn't happen. People raise their hand and say, yeah, I support having an exit planning practice, but it's a very passive kind of support, and they don't engage in helping as much as, we may expect. And I think there's two reasons for that. One is what I call silo-based mentality. These are my clients and I have my practice, and you have your exit planning practice and you do that for your clients. And they don't think about those clients as the firm's clients, and they don't think of the exit planning practice as the firm's practice. So that's one of the barriers that prevents getting participation from your partners that you may be expecting. And the other, I think, is just a fear factor. And I don't think this is real. I think this is imagined, but people make decisions based on what they imagine in their own heads. And I think they have a fear of success, that if they introduce you to your client and you begin engaging in exit planning, that you might steal the relationship. I don't think that's going to happen, but there's a fear that it can. Or worse, that they introduce to their client to you, and the client really just doesn't appreciate the process, the cost, and really is disengaged. And because of your perceived failure, they lose the relationship. I don't think that's going to happen either, but that doesn't stop it from being a real fear, in the heads of your partners. So with these common barriers, let's look at a couple of reasons why we are best positioned to be the best exit planning advisors and leverage the opportunity. I think the trust factor is probably the biggest factor that we have to facilitate building an exit planning practice. Our clients are so willing to have open conversations with us about anything. So we have the door wide open to introduce the benefits of exit planning to them anytime we want to. They trust us so much that they're willing to discuss their questions about exit planning, their concerns, their fears, their apprehensions. They'll tell us things about their business that they don't even tell their spouse. They'll tell us things about their family that they don't discuss with their business owner, because we have their trust. And so once we have their trust, we can discuss exit planning anytime we want to. We can open up that conversation. And that leads us to the second factor that we have that we can leverage to our advantage, is that we have access. We have direct access to the business owner. Other advisors have to knock on the door and they have to ask for permission to come in. We're already at the table. We don't have to ask for permission. We're already there. And we can use that access to engage in these conversations anytime we feel it's appropriate. Not only do we have access to the owner, but anyone who wants to engage in exit planning with our clients is going to need a lot of information. We have that information. We have it in our files and we have it in our head from all of the conversations we've had with our clients over the years. We know so much about them. Because we have trust and because we have access, we also have influence. Again, we don't need to knock on the door and ask permission to come in and persuade them to engage in exit planning. Because they trust us, we only have to use our trust and our knowledge to influence them to have proactive conversations. They want our advice. and they want our influence. They ask us questions about their taxes, their accounting, how are other clients doing, what are things that we have learned that we want to advise them on, and we can introduce exit planning into that conversation. Because of that, we have trust, we have access, and we have influence. They want to hear what we have to say. We have the early advantage factor. Like my friend Randy, the business broker, was saying, when there's a transaction on the horizon, when other advisors can sniff a transaction in the future, everybody wants to jump in and help, but no one wants to get in early and do the hard work that actually will enhance value and have a more successful exit. So we have access, so we are already in there early, and we have the information in front of us that we can leverage to identify opportunities to engage in exit planning and build value for our clients. And we know that if we get in early and sustain it over time, long-term sustained value enhancements are more effective than short-term. We should also not overlook the fact that we are educators for our clients. They're typically asking us for, our feedback and information and our knowledge. We're teaching them, what the new tax law means to them, what the new FASB means to them, what the new SBA loan program means to them and how to take advantage of it. And because we are constantly educating our clients, they're listening. We don't have to ask permission to talk about exit planning or anything else that's on our mind. We talk and they listen. We can educate them on exit planning without asking permission, and they want to hear from us. So knowing that we have trust, access, influence, and we constantly educate our clients, we have some huge advantages that we can leverage that other advisors, probably no other advisors out there, have when we're discussing our clients. So said in another way, we've got the means, information, relationship, trust, access, and influence to help our clients have the most successful exit plan possible. So why wouldn't we do that? Well, we wouldn't do it necessarily if there's barriers that we don't foresee that may discourage us or that we aren't able to overcome. So let's look at a few of those barriers and how we can deal with them. The first thing that I think we have to think about is, what's happening in the marketplace. There was a time when CPA firms looked around and the only competition they had was other CPA firms, and that just isn't true anymore. Other than the attest function, the assurance function, we're under attack from non-CPAs who are getting into a lot of areas of our practice, people who are outsourcing to lower cost countries, and people who are investing in technology, whereas CPA firms tend to invest maybe technology and people and talent. A lot of low cost competitors are investing in technology and not people and not talent. So how do we distinguish ourselves from those low cost competitors, right? That's one of the things that's going to retain and attract new clients over and above our low-cost competition. I call these value-added services, and exit planning is definitely a value-added service. And I can give you, example of how real this is for me. We've had a woman who's a CEO of a biotech company, and she not only came to one of our seminars, she actually came to two, even though they were very similar seminars, and I told her that in advance. And after the second one, she said, I want to engage with you in exit planning at some time soon and not right now. But does your firm do regular tax work? Does your firm do regular accounting work? And we wound up signing her for tax services before we ever signed her up for exit planning services. And in addition to that, when we looked at the work that she needed and what her prior provider was charging her for those, our fees were double what her current provider, and she went with us anyway because she wanted us to have knowledge about her business when we got to the exit planning. And literally our fees were double, not an exaggeration, they were exactly double. And she went with us for that reason, because we have value-added services. This is back to transaction planning again. We need to recognize that transaction planning is an extremely valuable and important part, of the exit planning practice, which is why I have that slice of the pie up there. But it's not everything about exit planning. But both of these practices would supplement each other. The transaction planners are going to meet prospective clients. They're going to say, I'd love to help you, but you're not ready for sale. Talk to my exit planning group, right? And so what that means is that where the transaction planners come in at a late stage in the game, we have the opportunity and the means and the ability to come in and start early, add greater value, which means we have a greater impact on the client and their ability to exit gracefully in the way they want to. But in addition to that, starting early benefits us as well because we have a revenue stream that comes in long before there's a transaction on the horizon. So, changing your mindset about transaction planning versus exit planning and the overlap and the distinction, this could add a lot of value. The other thing that I kind of did a little bit, but wish I had done more in depth when I started my exit planning practice, 2018, was to have a plan. And not sort of shoot from the hip. It's going to take a huge amount of time. There's no on-off switch. You can't leave the office on Friday as a tax person and come back on Monday as an exit planning person. There's going to be a huge overlap. So having a plan and knowing what steps you're going to take would be extremely valuable. And some of the things that I did include in my plan, or I would have included in my plan if I was starting over, there's an educational component. As CPAs, we have so much knowledge that will be useful in an exit planning practice, but it's not all the knowledge that we need to have. So we need an education plan. I'm presuming that's why most people are on this call today, because they're either members of EPI or will be soon, and they're going to leverage the knowledge they get. But in addition to EPI, there's also trainings out there in the world. There's books, there's publications. If you go to your favorite website for buying books online, there's lots of books out there on exit planning. Some of them are good, some of them are terrible, but the point is that there's a wealth of information out there that you can access to accelerate yourself up the learning curve, in the exit planning arena. The second thing is to make sure that you proactively change your identity. If you're a tax person like I am and you have your network of people who know you as a tax person, they're not going to forget that. So those referrals are not going to stop coming. But once you make a commitment to be an exit planner and build a practice, you really have to thoroughly and consistently change your identity and think of all the places where you identify yourself as a CPA, where you now want to identify yourself as a certified exit planning advisor. Any place that you send your bio, your company website, if you have a professional website of your own, if you have any kind of blogs or online presence that's related to your profession, your LinkedIn profile, your business card. My business card used to say Rich Gunn CPA. Now it says Rich Gunn CEPA and CPA. And even your elevator pitch, when you get 30 seconds to stand up in a networking group and talk about what you do, you have to practice leading with exit planning. You really have to be, can't keep it a secret, and you have to be very thorough and consistent in letting the world know what you're doing now. This is probably one of the things that I did right when I started, is having a client transition plan. And I looked at my portfolio of clients and I identified which ones are potential candidates for exit planning, either now or in the future. And I plan to retain those clients and maybe give them more time and more attention because now I want to develop them further. And I looked at the clients that were not and never will be candidates for exit planning, probably because they're not business owners, but there may be other reasons. And I began transitioning these clients to other people in the firm. And my favorite people to transition them to are the senior managers who want to be on the partner path and want to have their own book of business, because they seem to be very assertive and aggressive about serving clients extremely well. So I know they're going to be in good hands. And I didn't transition my clients all at once. It's a few each year, so that I have to maintain enough billable hours to meet certain requirements for our firm. But I also need to transition clients away so I can create room on my plate to build the exit planning practice. Similarly, in looking at our existing clients, we also have to look differently at new opportunities. And when a new client opportunity comes to my attention, I have to look at through my exit planning lens. And if I see this as a potential for exit planning, I pursue this client opportunity as I always have. But if it's a good client for the firm, but not a potential for exit planning, I pursue the opportunity, but I bring someone else and introduce them so they can take the lead on the opportunity if it's not going to further the exit planning practice. Going back to the barrier about what if you're a domain expert and say, corporate taxes and you want to transition to being a domain expert in exit planning, how do you really get over that hurdle? Well, you have the opportunity to reinvent yourself. See the importance of exit planning, see the opportunity, and make the commitment. One of my partners, Curtis Burr, who's been retired for, I think, 4 years now, he always told me that the beauty of public accounting is that you can reinvent yourself every 8 or 10 years and never leave public accounting. So Curtis started out in the audit practice, went over the tax practice, started his own firm, ran the tax practice at BPM. Then he ran the litigation practice as he found that was a great opportunity for himself. And the last 4 years before he retired, he had no client responsibilities and he was the CEO of BPM. Those are all completely different, distinct professions, but all within public accounting. So if you're looking for an opportunity to re-engage your passion and your energy, this might be a great opportunity for you to do that. Specifically, because not only is it good for you, but it's a valuable service for your clients. And if you look around your own firm, how many real exit planning specialists and domain experts are there in your firm right now? If there's none, this is a real opportunity to shine, or if there are some, to get more involved and take control of building the practice. That works well if you're in a larger firm and you have lots of other people that you can transition your non-exit planning clients to. But if you're in a small firm or you're a sole practitioner, changing your domain expertise is really not easy, and it might not even be feasible at all. So how do you advance exit planning benefits for your clients without the ability to delegate or transfer or change your clients to others or change your stripes? And the way you can do that is align yourself with other CEPAs in your community. So if you are educated and very familiar with the exit planning process and practice, you can engage someone outside of your firm to be a CEPA, and you know what they do and you know how to do it, and you can be the tax advisor on their exit planning team for which they are the CEPA for. And it works both ways. And someone who's not a CPA has a different skill sets, and they may be a CEPA and they may want a CPA on their team who's not going to compete with them for the CEPA relationship. And in fact, on the EPI website, there's a page called Find a CEPA. And if you're a member now, you can probably find yourself listed there. And you can go in there and you can find a CEPA by state or by city or even by zip code, and you can drill down to find the closest CEPA connection in your community. We have a gigantic opportunity to invest. As we said earlier, and you've probably heard 1,000 times, it's the baby boomers, it's the $1 trillion of businesses, that's on our doorstep and the doorstep of every advisor who thinks they do exit planning or wants to do exit planning. But again, just look at your portfolio of clients that you manage, look at the clients within your firm, and you'll find opportunities to grow an exit planning practice. It's sitting right there on your doorstep. But here's the big surprise that I wish somebody would have made me aware of, because it would have accelerated getting my partners excited about this. As our exit planning grows, we are contributing to the growth of our traditional services. And what I mean by that was, I talked about the CEO for the biotech company who came up to us and says, yeah, I'd like to engage in exit planning at some time down the road, not right now, but do you do tax work? Do you do accounting work? Do you do outsource accounting? Do you review reviews, compilations, all those things that CPAs do? And a lot of our seminar attendees are surprised when we say, yes, we do regular CPA work. So not only are we bringing in exit planning work, we're also bringing in work for our other partners and our traditional services for people who were not currently engaged in our firm. In fact, the big eye-opener for my partners was that when I looked at the revenue that we generated directly attributable to exit planning in 2018 and 2019, for every $1 of exit planning that we brought into the firm, we brought in $20 of revenue for other traditional services, $1 of exit planning revenue yielded $20 of revenue in other services. And that was a big eye-opener. And I've talked to other CPAs who've been doing this, who are members of EPI, who've been doing this longer than I have, and they said they had the exact same results. And it was really an eye-opener to get other people, those silo-based partners who are not participating, those passive partners who are not participating. This is sort of their wake-up call to say, yeah, this is good for me, but it's also good for you. Whatever way you're going to approach this, you probably want to have a plan, what I like to call a do list. And the first thing that I would put on my do list, if you haven't done it already, is get the certification. There's so many advisors out there who are going to knock on your client's door and try to sell exit planning services, but they, when they don't have the certification, they're just another advisor out there who's pushing or peddling another service. Book this, whatever the latest book is, good to great, the blue ocean strategy, the way they approach their consulting changes every time there's a new business bestseller. But when you say you're a certified exit planner, you're telling people that you drew the line in the sand and you are fully engaged and fully committed to it. And I think that's a big distinction. Also, the wealth of information that you get from the certification process and the membership, you learn about the resources, you build your network, and it helps, catapult things forward quite a bit. The next thing that I would do and have done is I just reviewed my client list and I identified which clients would benefit from exit planning. So I sort of had a path for myself, which ones I will engage with at which point in time. And I picked a few who I thought were my quote favorite clients because I really just enjoyed working with them. We had long-term relationships, so I knew them well, and these became the practice clients. And the practice clients, we introduced them to this new process and we do practice with them. We can do this for a low fee to get the ball started. We can do it for a no fee. That's, an individual choice, but we want to induce them into doing this. And, I didn't say, hey, we're doing something new. Do you want to be my, my guinea pig, my laboratory experiment? What I said was, we've always done exit planning, but we're using a new process and I'd like to try this new process on you because I think you would benefit. And that was a genuine statement. I really meant that. And after you engage in 1 or 2 or 3 clients to, practice on, now you've got several practices and you fine tune the process and you fine tune your procedures and you fine tune your reports. And soon you'll be ready to go to the marketplace, but it's not just going to the marketplace with a process only. You're going to the marketplace with referrals from your practice clients. They will have a fantastic experience and they will thank you profusely for going through this exercising with them. Even if it's your first one and even if you're not doing it as well as you think you should, they're not going to notice that. They're going to be extremely grateful. A couple of things. Probably they've never sold a business before, so this is causing a lot of anxiety for them when they think about it. And there's so much misinformation out there. You'll be debunking myths, correcting the misinformation they've acquired. You may be removing their fears, their apprehension, their anxiety. You will help them gain confidence. You'll make things clear. You'll give them a roadmap. You'll set a path, and they are just going to be extremely grateful. They will be your best advocates and your strongest endorsements. The next thing that we did, which I thought was extremely helpful, was thought leadership. With social media these days, gone are the days where if you want to publish a thought leadership paper, you have to send it out to 6 or 7 professional publications, get rejected by most, and if one picks it up and you're all excited they might print it this month or next, and they say no, we've got our articles planned for about the next year, so we're going to print this 12 months from now. And that's kind of a little bit of a letdown. But you can sit down right now, brainstorm on a topic, commit it to a Word document, and within an hour you can publish it on your favorite social media site, instant publishing. And it's extremely helpful, not because it attracts business necessarily, although I can think of at least 2 clients who called because they read an article that they either saw on LinkedIn or they got from us in their email inbox from our marketing team. But the real point of the thought leadership is it gives you credibility. When people are considering engaging you in exit planning and they go to your bio or your website and they see all the papers that you've published on exit planning, they're already thinking of you as the expert that they want to work with before they've even met you. It just holds you in a very high regard. And if you're wondering where you're going to get the content, don't worry about that. There's plenty of content out there between all the books and publications. But EPI itself, for the members only, the members login, there's a plethora of information in the libraries. There's lots of content. There's data. There's research. There's the owner readiness survey that's done on a national level in different cities. There's more information that you can take and write a short article about than you can even imagine. But not only that, is you'll have stories of your own to tell. So when you work with one client and then the second and the third, you're going to get recurring questions and you're going to be answering those questions. And when you get the same question from 3 different clients, that becomes the basis of a short article. And if you're doing seminars and you're getting the same question at each seminar and you're answering those questions, that becomes the basis of an article. And my marketing team always tells me that if I send them an article that's more than 1 page in a Word document, that I have to cut it back. So this is not, we're not writing novels here, but we're writing quality content on relevant topics to business owners and exit planning. That's why we named our newsletter, we publish one every 4 weeks. We call it the BOSS series because we like the acronym, the BOSS, the business owner. Easy to remember, kind of catchy, business owners special series. But we just want to have a stream of articles that are always out there hitting somebody's mailbox every few weeks on exit planning, keeping our name and exit planning in front of their face. I mentioned seminars. Seminars are great. They're easy to do. Once you build the content for one seminar, you can use it over and over and over again. There's a CPA in Ohio, Mike Traybert. He's a partner with Markham. He's what I call the king of the business owner roundtables. I think he's done 16 of these now, and he gets great results. Business owners come to his seminar that he calls the business owners roundtables, and engages them in conversations on the different topics, of exit planning. And I went and visited Mike at his firm when he was doing this once, and it's really a fantastic experience. But you can approach doing your seminars the same way you approach your test clients. You can handpick a select number of clients to fill a small conference room. We found that 8 to 10 was ideal, because at that number, you're not just talking for the entire presentation. You do engage them in conversations. They do ask questions, and they talk to each other, and it's really a very dynamic thing. When you start getting into 20 people or more, it sounds impressive to say we did a seminar for 20 or 30 or 40 people, but you're going to have a lot less interaction, a lot less discussion. So do it for your select group of clients first, and then maybe a larger number of clients, and then branch out to a larger audience. And also do it internally. Make the partners and the staff aware, of what you're doing in exit planning, and let them be witness to the seminar that you're giving to potential clients and business owners. And then reach out to other professionals. We've done this for wealth management firms, and we've done this for banks, and the banks really love it. 2 different bankers told me they did this with us because, this was like the under the table conversation they didn't want anybody to hear them say. But what they both said was, our bank is doing similar products and services to other banks. We're doing it for similar prices as other banks. It's very hard to distinguish ourselves. But if I bring in you do an exit planning seminar for my business owner clients at no cost to them, now I, as their banker, am adding value that I couldn't add on my own. So getting invitations to have other people invite you to make presentations to their clients is not so hard. This is what I did the very first year. I tried to do it all myself, and it was a tough go. I made progress and things went well. We generated some business. But I quickly realized about 3 quarters into 2018 that 2 heads and 4 hands are going to make a lot more progress than 1 head and 2 hands, especially if it's my head. But there's just so many things to do. None of this is rocket science, but there's a lot to do. And here's just a short list. You're going to be evaluating different software and making a selection. You're going to be coming up with brand new engagement letters for this new practice. You're going to be putting together content for seminars that you've never put content together before. And you're probably going to be doing it yourself. You may not be buying, prepackaged materials. You may be putting together a marketing plan. You may be doing public speaking. That always helps. And when you have clients, you're going to be getting those engagement letters out. You're going to be preparing for the meetings. You're going to be engaging in the meetings, writing reports, and so on and so on and so on. And it's just so much easier when you have two people. I found out that choosing a partner in my firm to help me with this was probably not a good idea for a couple of reasons. One, that partner has a full plate of business and they're really focused on that. So they're not really deeply engaged in what I'm trying to accomplish. They don't necessarily want to learn new ways or learn our processes, but they have plenty of opinions. And they're just not going to roll up their sleeves and do the work. I found that a manager who is mature, has good communication skills, is very savvy, you know, a decent amount of experience under the belt, and who's hungry to make a name within the firm and would love to join a niche practice that currently doesn't exist or is only a small part of the practice and help start it, help build it, or help grow it. There's so much to do. There's so much to do. The last thing that is really helpful to advancing the cause of building the practice is to just really talk it up a lot. Whatever the accomplishments are, hey, we signed up 1 new client. Hey, we signed up 2 new clients. Hey, we're working on our 3rd exit plan. And tell the client stories. As the client is benefiting and giving you feedback, you know, tell those stories to anyone who will listen. You know, communicate at the partner meetings, be a regular agenda item to do the update on the exit planning practice, and not just the partner meetings. Make sure that everyone in your firm is aware, because we often are surprised where new client opportunities come from. And it's excellent to remind the folks who are not the most supportive of the exit planning practice, to remind them not only about the exit planning revenue that the firm has achieved, but also the traditional service revenue that you've brought in because of exit planning. Like I said before, $1 for every 20. It was a shocking number to me, and it was a real eye-opener to my partners, and people who were a little bit passive started to pay attention. So, you know, the more you talk about the success that you're having, the more success that you will have, and the more people that will buy in and give you support. So talk it up and don't keep it a secret. So I'm coming to my last slide here. You know, as CPAs, we have this fantastic opportunity that's sitting on our doorsteps. We can really help our clients improve the value of their business a lot and have a far better exit by getting in early and starting early. And because we have the trust and the relationships, we have the ability to do that without appearing to trying to sell them something. We're just trying to help them and be more successful. You know, we have the special knowledge. We have the special relationship. We should leverage that to make sure that our clients have the best exit possible. So as CPAs, I would be thrilled if the number of CPAs that went through the Exit Planning Institute masterclass and certification process started to increase in number to the same level as some of the other professionals that are going through. So that's my entire presentation. I hope you learned from some of the mistakes that I made. Hope that you learn how to leverage strengths perhaps that you didn't have. Hope you learn to recognize barriers so that you can anticipate them and work your way around them. And if there's questions in the chat box, that's great. Otherwise, I want to thank everybody for being here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Rich. I know our community is going to find this information very, very, very valuable. But yeah, at the time, there is no questions in the question box. I'll give it a few minutes here as there's still 6 or 7 people waiting in the lobby to see if they have any questions. And we will just get on with their days. So give us 1 minute here.
Well, I should just add that I do network with other CEPAs and other CPA firms, and everyone who's engaged in this practice seems to enjoy it immensely, and they really feel like they are doing a whole lot of good for a lot of business owners. You know, that statistic that we've heard before, and I'll repeat every chance I get, that 3 out of 4 clients will not have a very good experience, you know, without our early intervention. And that is just such a powerful number for me.
All right, it looks like we do have a question here, Rich, from Michael. Do you work with other CPAs who do not have the ability to do the exit planning?
I do. I will be honest and say it's not a large part of what we do because I think there's a reluctance for one CPA to refer to another CPA because they're afraid that if they refer for exit planning, we may steal the relationship. But that's really not a new issue. So, I give them my utmost assurance that I will never try to steal, any of the work that they're currently doing. And if the client asks me if I will do it, I will tell them no. I'm here as your exit planner only. Um, the hurdle that I am trying to overcome is getting referrals from CPAs within my own firm, and we're making good progress. But I have not aggressively gone after doing exit planning for CPAs outside of my firm. But I think it's a real opportunity. I just think they're going to be a little bit cautious.
All right, thank you for that, Rich. And just to piggyback off of that, Michael also said, how do you change your client's perception of you as their tax guy?
Well, for the clients who are business owners, I'm not necessarily trying to give them a wholesale change. I just want to make sure that they know that we are doing this and bring this up. But, when I'm talking to clients and I'm transitioning to other people, I tell them the reason is that, I love you to death. I really enjoyed working with you, but you're not the center of my new practice. And I want to transition you to somebody who you will be the center, of their current practice. And the same thing when I'm engaging with potential clients. So I don't dissuade them that I'm a tax professional anymore. I just keep reminding them about how we can help them with exit planning as well. And those are
Awesome.
the first people I invited to the seminars when we started doing them.
Oh,
When they come to your seminar, they're going to hear it right from you. And if they start reading your newsletters, they're going to hear it right from you. And then when they see on your signature on the bottom of your email, that the first thing they see is you're a certified exit planning advisor, they get the message. And I bring it up in conversation every chance I get.
well, yeah, thank you for answering all those questions, Rich. Very appreciative of that. But yeah, it seems like there's no more questions coming in here. Gonna wrap it up for today. Again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Rich, for your time here today. And I look forward to talking to you all soon.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thank you to EPI, and thank you everybody who took the time today. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.